I was raised by my dad and my stepmother, and my dad was totally amazing. He had us thinking for ourselves, doing things for ourselves, and at the same time, telling us what it means to be a woman in the world. What we need as women is that we need to bring each other along. When you are moving up the corporate ladder, you should at least be able to be at least one. It would be nice to bring three. There's always someone to mentor you. There's always someone to coach you. There's always a friend to tell you what you need to work on. So surround yourself with the right people, so therefore you can know exactly who you are.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 20/20. In hindsight, you make mistakes, but learning from it. In hindsight, yesterday and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
Imagine stepping into a new role with bigger responsibilities and realizing the only way forward is to stop following and start leading. How do you build confidence, clarity, and resilience to thrive in such a transition? Today, I'm joined by Cecile Peterkin, a career strategist and confidence coach with over 22 years of experience helping professionals unlock their potential and redefine success. How you doing, Cecile?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, Lee?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the call today to talk to us about how we can transition from being a follower to being a leader, and also just to learn a little bit about who you are and how you got to that particular mindset, because this is hindsight. So before we get started, and I'm going to throw you right in there, before we get started, Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what, just who you are, and then we'll ask the follow-up questions after that.
Okay. I will start by saying I was never a follower.
I love
That's why it came easy for me. Seriously, no, I wasn't a follower. And that made it quite easy for me to maneuver in the corporate world, to pivot from one career to the next, because I've always been a leader, and I didn't realize how much I was a leader until I got in the corporate world. Because out in university, yes, you do things, but it's not until then I realized it. However, I was raised by my dad and my stepmother. I always have to tell the story. And my dad was totally amazing. So he had myself and my older sisters, 2 girls, and he wanted to make sure these 2 girls are not the same like women when they grow up. So he basically had us thinking for ourselves, doing things for ourselves, and at the same time, telling us what it means to be a woman in the world. And as the world changes, the role of a woman will change. So how do you get to that point when the world is changing? How to stand in your power, how to be who you are and always showing up who you are, how to be respected, all those different things. So it became very easy because there was no fear. And he was always there with questions. And even when we were younger, sometimes he's like, oh, God, do I need to learn this now? But
Right.
I appreciate it now that I get older and I realize it really helped me, especially being a Black woman. It really helped me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I did. And after my major was chemistry in university. And the reason for that was I'm very curious. I was always getting into trouble because I'm always fixing something I shouldn't be fixing. And so I decided, okay, my dad wanted me to do nursing. I thought, no, I don't like that. Plus I don't like needles. So I did chemistry instead, and loved it because, science is about discovering things. So I loved it. And then when I graduated, lo and behold, there was something called recession. I didn't know anything about it, but I wasn't able to find a job. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to look for a job, but if I can't find a job, I would go back to school to become a pharmacist instead. And I looked for a job and I found a job in financial services. And then I compared the pay to being in science to business. And I thought, I'm not going back to science. Stay in business. Because you earn so much more. So I ended up in business, in financial services. And I was in management by the age of 28.
I
And
love it.
and that was quite young for that age because the people I was managing, a lot of them were older, plus I looked younger. So I wouldn't say it was difficult. It wasn't difficult. And the reason why it wasn't difficult was I'm a communicator. So if something isn't going right, I'm going to let you know it's not going right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you why it's not going right and how I can help you get to the place you want to get to. And I remember this one manager, she was older than I was, and she didn't even realize how young I was, but that I was older than I was, which thought I was very young. But what drove me crazy about her was she was like a busy housewife, just
Mm,
running around doing things. And
yeah.
her staff were getting like agitated, anxiety, because she looked like she had anxiety. So they
Yeah.
came to talk to me and saying, but she's always running around with papers in her hands and she's not asking for help and we don't know what she's doing. So I went to her, but I didn't tell her exactly that way. I said, I noticed. I said, I noticed that you're moving very quickly, but I'm not quite sure what's going on. And she
Yeah.
said, well, I'm trying to get work done. I said, but you're supposed to be managing people, not actually doing the work. You're supposed to be managing them so they know what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I said to her, you need to call a meeting. And because she was fairly new as well, I said, you need to call a meeting. And in this meeting, you cannot just show up and start working. They don't know you. So you have to
Yeah.
introduce yourself, say what your expectations are, ask them what they expect from you as a manager, and start from there, because one, you'll gain their respect, and two, you wouldn't be doing the work that they should be doing.
Yeah.
I don't think she appreciated that. Yet again, she thought I was young and didn't know what I was talking about, but she
Mm-hmm.
knew she had to do it. And she started doing it, but there was something that she seemed really bothered. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
was me and not the job and the staff. So
Right.
I thought, okay, I'll just leave her be. Spoke to her a few times. She would listen, then she would revert back. And then her review time came, and I gave her a review. And then the senior team met, and we went through all the various people. And I critiqued her, and I said, no, she's not working. She has to go. I said, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, she's not working, and the people are going
Right.
to leave because of her.
Mm,
So I had to let her go.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. It was difficult,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it paved the way for accepting who I was
Okay.
and
That's a
what I'm
leader.
capable
Yeah.
of doing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it did. Yeah. And from then I just kept going.
I tell you what, I remember I was in the Army and I had this clerk and he was super funny. And he said, hey, Sergeant, you want to know how you have everybody just leave you alone? And he said, you just got to look busy. And he was like, hold on, watch this. And he went and he got a folder and he just walked up and down the hallway looking frustrated, like he was super busy, but frustrated about it and nobody bothered him. So when you
What she
said that
was
about
doing.
this leader, that's what it reminded me of. Maybe
That's
she
what
just
she
didn't
was
know what
doing.
she was doing. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know either.
But
I wish her well.
that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, absolutely. Well, not funny that, she had to go and she didn't learn her lesson, but I tell you what, she probably did learn her lesson and hopefully applied it in her
She did.
next
I think so
transition
too.
right.
Yeah, I think so
Absolutely.
too. Yeah. Yeah. She
Absolutely.
just didn't want to hear it from me, but she
And
took it.
there it is. There it is. You know how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey, so what's your definition of leadership and how does it differ from just simply managing?
Managing it's managing people and the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And leader is you're being more strategic.
Mm-hmm.
So in being more strategic, I simply means that you need the people and you want the people, but you cannot be so involved with the people. And
Yeah.
what you need to do, like what I was trying to tell her, is you have to make sure they know what the expectations are of a leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. A leader is not the one that run in and put out the fire. That's the manager's job. The leader is
Right.
the one who is going to be doing the strategic thinking as if it's a big problem, how do we eliminate this?
Right.
How do we find a solution to doing this? And while you're doing that as well, too, is thinking about how can we do things differently? So it's always about, the leadership is about getting people to where you want them to go.
It's a
And the end
strategy,
result.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. And at the same time, making sure that 6 months later, they're not doing the same thing.
Yeah.
because now you have expanded that, because now there's also growth. So it's about growing the team, growing the manager. And while you're growing the manager is supposed to be growing the team
Yeah.
and coming up. Exactly. And, and you still need to be involved with the staff that they're managing, but not hands-on. And they still should be able to come to you, because there are a lot of people who are doing the work that would like to get into management as well, or
Yeah.
like to get into leadership role. So
Right.
I love the role, because what I love about the role is that you can see when people are excelling based on watching you, or when they come to talk to you. And it's just give you this warm, fuzzy feeling that a
Yeah.
lot of times when managers complain about their staff is this and their staff is that, it's never the staff, it's the manager. It really and truly isn't. And it's just because managers tend to be hands-on and micromanage everything that their staff is doing. They don't really give them that allowance to come up with even ideas of changing things to make it better. And that's the challenge. But for a leader doesn't need to be in the weeds. They're supposed to be thinking of the next move.
Yeah.
What's the next move? What do I want that team manager to achieve for that team?
Right.
And that's what it's about. That how can we change this? It's looking at the strategic plan that the company have created, because as leader, you're part of that. And it's looking at the strategic plan. What are the outcomes they're looking for, and what outcomes can you also create to make things better?
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Actually, well, let me preface it with this. I remember in the Army, it was all about building up the next leader. So you didn't really have I didn't have the mentality of I'm the leader and you do what I say. I never really had that mentality. Now, I had that power to be that way, but I never really had that mentality. And it was always about trying to employ different strategies to help them be leaders, because essentially in the military, everyone's a leader, right? Because everyone has an opportunity to have a voice, to make a decision at any given time. You talked about communication. You talked about strategy. You talked about leadership. How do you help people pivot from being followers to leaders? Like, how do you get people to take ownership? What lessons can you give them, or what strategies can I provide? I'll put myself on there to help them to take ownership and want to become that leader.
I was about to just preface a point that you said about bringing the next leader up. And that's how I always function. And it's funny because during COVID, right? It was COVID time, I think 2022. And I was speaking, it was during International Women's Month, now it is. And I was speaking for Women's Day. And the theme was breaking the bias. And so that's March. And then February is Black History Month, because we do it here in Canada as well, too. And we piggyback on the U.S., of course. We don't really have anything for ourselves. But so we did that. So I think everyone expected that I would come in and talk about breaking the bias based on being Black. And what I did was I based it on being women. Because what I find, the difference between women and men, and this is my theory behind it, is that men are accustomed to playing team sports, right? And in a team, everyone has to be included, right? You can't just take the ball and run, even though you can't run with it, and you have to pass it because you want to win, because your team will also win. Now, women, not stereotyping, but let's face it, majority of them, it's just recently, I would say it's my niece and nephew generation, where girls are playing, soccer and all these baseball and all these different things. But before that, they would be in individual sports, gymnastics, dancing, all those things. So it was always about them. So it was never about that team. And so that's why I used breaking the bias as a different way of using it. I said, well, I know what you were expecting, but that's not what you will be getting. And I said, what we need as women is that we need to bring each other along. When you are moving up the corporate ladder, you should at least be able to be at least one. It would be nice to bring three, but at least one should be moving up. You cannot get to the C-suite and then complain, or you get to management, higher management, and you complain there are no other women there when you didn't groom someone to actually follow you. So I went through the whole thing about what it means to be a woman and also the strength that we carry, but we don't. We play small. And so
Right.
to your point, yes, we are right. We all should. And to be honest, from my experience in corporate, most men know who they will choose to be
Yeah.
the next leader out of their job. Most women do not know that because they're so busy managing and also trying to show that I can be a leader. But you don't need to show you're a leader. You just be a leader.
That's it. That's
and,
it.
And that's where it comes in. But you're totally right. They should be. And that is why when I pivot, I used to work with men and women, and I still work with men. I won't cast them away. But what I found was the men get it so much quicker in less than no time that, yeah, I got this. And they listen and they implement and they go on. Where the women take a longer time. So I decided I'm going to start, catering more to women just to let them realize the place that they have in society, the leadership they have in society, what it means to be a woman, and not just sitting there, not speaking up for yourself or what you really need. So, there should be someone moving up each time you're stepping out of your leadership role. There should be. No two ways about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And you may have just answered this question I was going to ask you, but what are the biggest challenges that professionals face when stepping into leadership roles, and how can they overcome them from your perspective?
Let be who you are, and you don't minus that. Let's start. So the first thing first is we should all know exactly who we are. We should. There shouldn't be any guessing game. It's hard, but it is hard. But be true to yourselves. And then there are so many different assessments out there now. Ask a friend, but always be true to who you are, because when you're true to who you are, the moment you're going to be stepping into a leadership role, you need to be able to tell that person, why are you considering yourself for a leadership role? You need to say how disciplined you are. You need to say what you're good at. You need to also say, even things that you might think they might not like.
Yeah.
But you do need to know. You need to know, am I a compassionate leader? Different things, because things have changed so much as the years go by, that now people have to be more compassionate. They have to be more sympathetic, empathetic, understand people a little bit more. Gone are the days where you could be a leader where, no, you sit down. I don't want to hear anything from you. Or that kind of, exactly. You have to be a leader that you are a person before you are a leader. The leader is just a title. So if you don't know who you are as a person, you shouldn't be a leader. Because it's not just,
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, because it's not just about being a leader. It's like, who are you, the person? If you don't know who you are as a person, how are you going to show up as a leader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's where I think they find difficult. Yeah.
That is difficult. And, I said it's hard because a lot of times, well, I don't know if I should say a lot of times. I know for me, when I was going through the exercise of trying to figure out who I am, there's a lot of different, like you said, opportunities and tools and things out there to help you assess who you are. But as I was going through and continue to go through that journey, it was difficult for me. So in understanding that, I just believe that it's probably difficult for other people as well. I learned this lesson early on in the Army. I was in a leadership school, and we had to get up and do presentations. So public speaking. So we had to get up and do presentations. And I went, and I really just talked like how I talk. I just came out and was myself. And the feedback I got was better than I thought. Like the sergeant was like, that was amazing how you did it. You stayed yourself. You didn't try to be somebody else. Just the other day, and I had to give this feedback to this one guy. It's not Jehovah's Witness. It's one of those religions. They go out and they talk to you and they hand you the pamphlets and stuff like that.
Right.
It was a kid. It was two of them, two young guys, like in their 20s.
Oh, yeah. I think it's something about Latter-day Saints or
Latter-day
something like
Saints.
that.
That's it. So they came up to me. We had a good conversation. I mean, it was fine. We, talked about a little things. But he was like, well, let me read a Bible verse to you. And I was like, okay, go ahead, do your thing. And he was like, and the Lord said this and da-da-da. And I was like, dude, you don't have to do that. What he was doing is taking on the character of probably a preacher that he sees up in the pulpit. And I'm like, just be yourself. Bottom line is, he's going to be in a leadership position eventually. Right now he's a follower and he's, doing what he's called to do. Eventually he's going to be, directing the other followers, right? And I just wish people just be yourself, because you and I were having this great conversation and you connected with me fine. So
you're a young kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I just took that opportunity just to coach, mentor, teach. It's not my religion, but it's still an opportunity to help a person grow. So
and it's
anyway.
true. Yes. No, but your point is good. Your story is good because it's true. And that's what it is. It takes to be a leader.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of my niece and nephew. My sister has 2 kids. Well, now they are young adults, grant you, 35 and 33.
Okay.
And I'm an aunt, and I'm a fun aunt. I'm a strict aunt. I'm a leadership aunt.
There it is.
I'm an aunt that's no nonsense. Education comes first. Everything. And they know all that side of the aunt. And we get along great.
Yeah.
We get along great because they'll listen and, they'll say, oh, you're different from mommy. And yes, I am. She's more of a nurturer. And they say, yes, Aunt Cecile, you're a nurturer, but your nurturing is different from hers. And the example they used was, if they're feeling sick and they don't want to go to school, she says, oh, yes, today I'll call the school and say you're not feeling well. And she'll bring them something warm in bed to drink. When my sister passed away, and they were young. So it was first year university, second year college. So my nephew came to live with me. Now, if you're not feeling well, and you know that from the night before, you're going to school the next day because I'm going to fix you from that day.
Yeah.
That's what they use. They use, you're a nurturer, but you fix it right away. Mommy would have let us stay home.
Wow.
So, right. So exactly. So it's knowing who you are and be okay. 2 different styles. Be okay with who you are. Because as a leader, I spoke to everyone. I would stop at their desk. I would joke around with them. I'm not walking around with a halo saying I'm a leader. I would joke around. I'd ask about their family. I'd ask, and I'm trying to tell the managers, that's what you do. If they have a family, ask them at this point in time, what are you looking for from your career? Is it just an extra paycheck, for you and your husband, or do you see yourself being someplace else?
Yeah.
And if they say that, you geared the work towards what they have right now on their plate.
Right.
Because I don't want anyone having to give up their family, just to work because this is what they think they have to do. So I used to say to managers, get to know your people, get to know who they are, get to know what they think, their family, get to know everybody because they spend so much time here. Because when they call in sick to say their child is sick, you need to say to them, don't come in. Do not come in. We'll find someone else to do the work. Stay with your child and take care of your child. I said, that's how you also get people to respect their job and do the work, because you're being fair and you see them as a human being, and you also accept what they need are and what their goals are at the point in time. Yeah, because you cannot have someone who their family is their first priority right now, but later on when their kids are grown, they'd like to move into a management role. So you need to know that, and that's what leaders need to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'll tell you what, and I say I'm still learning, because when I was in the military, like, everyone kind of knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to get to the next role, right? I want to get to the next rank, and inherent in those ranks were more responsibilities or different responsibilities. But in the civilian world, one thing I just learned, and it was just this year, I learned to ask that important question that you just said. Like, what is it that you want out of your career? Like, I know you're working in this role, in this position right here, right now, but what is it that you want to get out of your career? What is it that you want to get out of this organization right now that you're working for? Ask those questions, right? Get that motivation and get that understanding. And then that really helps with the coach, mentor, teach philosophies going forward.
Yes, it does. And you gain so much more respect when you ask that, because everyone wants to be seen. Yes, everyone needs a paycheck, but they also want to be seen as a person. Yeah. And the moment you say that, that's the end of it, because they now become someone that's going to do the work. They trust you. They'll ask you anything, if they're having problems at home. There's so many people who had problems because a lot of them were just out of university, and then they married a person that they met in university, and they just started having kids or whatever. And here's a good example. There was a young man, lovely, 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 lovely. But he had a drinking problem because his mom was an alcoholic. And he came from a very wealthy family, from a wealthy neighborhood and everything. And, a lot of the other people, especially the guys, because they were all young, just at the university. And he got the job because his father also worked for a different financial company. But he was a fantastic worker and excellent. And one morning, because I normally used to get to work early because I go in, get my work done, then I go to the gym and then I'll come back. Okay. And one morning he came in and he reeked of alcohol. And I said to him, Jamie, oh my God, you smell of booze. Did you go home? I said, oh yes, I went home. I said, did you get any sleep? He said, yes, he got a bit of sleep. I said, you can't stay. You cannot stay. I'll get you out of here. Because being in the financial field, you work late sometimes. You have taxi chit to get you home. So I said, I'll give you a taxi chit and you will go home and I'll tell your manager you called in. I picked up the phone and you weren't feeling well. And he goes, you do that? I said, yes, just get out of here because I don't want anyone else to see you. And this is between you and I. Yeah. And I said, don't let it happen again, though. This is between you and I. Yeah. It never happened again. And he became one of my clients when I first became a coach.
I love it. I love it.
He said, I never forgot that. He said a lot of other management or leaders would have kept me there and have a big, meeting as what should we do and all this. I said it wasn't necessary because I knew you wouldn't do it again. And he never did. It's just meeting people where they're at. It really and truly is meeting people where they're at. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And once you do that, that's it. They never seem to go back to do whatever they did.
I love it. All right. So let's talk about confidence. How do confidence and clarity play a role in a successful leadership transition? So just being confident. Go ahead. You got me.
Good. That's a really good question. An excellent question. Because if you're not confident, you can't do the job. Yeah. It's as simple as that. You cannot do the job because you're going to get people who are going to challenge you. Yeah. And if you are not confident in who you are and your abilities, how are you going to deal with a situation like that? And if that's a subordinate, you don't want them to see you quivel. You don't. It's like a parent out of control while the kid is also out of control. It doesn't make sense. So you have to. How do you develop your confidence? Learning to communicate better.
That's a great one.
Yeah, learning to communicate better. And
go ahead, but before you say let's talk about the communicate better. Like, what does that look like? Because everyone knows, hey, you need to communicate. That's just, all right, I need to talk to Cecile. Right? Like, what does that really entail? Communicate better.
The communication part is about respecting the person. And it's funny because my leadership is a lot of things that I learned from my dad. And seriously, it's a lot of things I learned from my dad. I just sort of transported it over. Yeah. And the great thing about my dad was, so it was my sister and I, and my stepmother had a child before my dad's relationship. So my stepbrother. And if we did something, he would never talk to us when everyone is at home. So if it takes 3 months, he would wait until I am the only person in the house with him. And he would call me to his office. He's that chair right there. And he'd get behind his desk and he would sit. But he wouldn't sit facing you. We're not facing you. So it's not like, this is the chair and you're sitting in the chair and he's like this way. No, he turned so he's facing you. And he would say, Cecile, the other day, I think maybe a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I saw you did something. And I'm thinking, but Cecile is a smart girl. Why would she do something like that? That's not like her at all. Then you're sitting there and you're going to think, oh my God, Daddy think I'm smart. I'll be honest with him. I said, to tell the truth, I don't even remember what I did.
Yeah.
And then you'd say, sometimes you should stop and think.
Yeah.
You should stop because you're very busy and you move fast, but sometimes you need to slow down, stop and think before you react or do something. Because I know you didn't realize what you've done, and it's not a bad thing, but if I let you continue like that, you'll keep behaving that way. And it should be over and it's done. And it says, thanks, Daddy, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
So instead of my sister or my stepbrother to know what I did, I have to tell them because it wouldn't be a big thing in the house while
Yeah,
everyone is listening to me get into trouble. And to me, it wasn't any trouble. We just kind of communicate and we're done.
that's a
Yeah.
great one.
And
That's a
it
great
is. And
one.
yeah, it is. It's like communication is important. We have to respect people and we
Mm,
have to talk to them to make sure that they're respected. And a lot of managers and leaders don't do that because it's the title that they're wearing and not looking at it. I'm a human being. That's a human being. Would I want someone to speak to me that way? No, I wouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's
yeah,
what it is. It really is in the communication. Communication really and truly is important. And body language.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. I like it. It took me back and all these stories. It took me back once again when I was in the Army. And I remember I was in formation. And that morning I hadn't shaved. I shaved the night before so that I can get more sleep in the morning. But in the Army, they notice these things. You got to shave first thing because just like now
Yeah.
you see a little stubble, right?
Yeah.
In this E5, I was a private at the time. The sergeant, he came in, he just got into me. Just got in, just abusing power. You know what I mean? From this situation. And
Exactly.
as a
Yeah.
private, I got to stand there and I got to just accept it.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I can't say anything.
Yeah.
I'm in formation. Everybody's there. And he got done and I said, whatever y'all, Sergeant? And he said, yeah, whatever choice of words he used. And so what happened in that moment, because it was always, there's all kind of leadership styles in the Army, and you can do whatever basically you want that your rank can handle.
Yeah.
But what happened was there were a lot of people who outranked him, who that wasn't their leadership style. And so they got my immediate supervisor, and this guy was under my immediate supervisor as well. And so he took him in the room and he closed the door. It was just them two in there. But you could hear him yelling. You could hear him yelling at him and telling him whatever he was telling him. It was years ago, so I can't really remember. But in the end, the guy came out and he apologized.
Wow.
For how he acted. Because the other sergeant who outranked him told him to apologize to me. And the lesson is, because this was a combat unit, in talking to people with respect, that's shaving. Now, if I go out there and I do something stupid on a live fire range, then yeah, you may want to yell at somebody because you want to emphasize that point. Like you kill somebody out here.
Yeah.
But for this, it didn't warrant it. It takes a special type of leadership communication. And this guy didn't have it. So I never respected him after that. But I don't know. I'm hoping that he learned his lesson as well. That came to me when we were talking about communication, bringing people to the side, having empathy, and always keeping in mind is the lesson that you're teaching that needs to be in the forefront. It's like a parent. This hurt me more than it hurt you when they beat you back in the day, right? It should hurt them more than it hurts you because they don't want to do it. Now it's more talking, and you can be as impactful with talking as you could back then with the belt, even more so.
I think a lot better, actually. Yes. I think it's way better. Yeah. But and that's the thing. And one of the things that also problematic with leaders, it's that a lot of time companies will promote someone who has been an individual contributor and they do the work well. Whereas you shouldn't do that because that doesn't mean they have leadership skills. And if you're not going to train them to be a leader, they will mess up completely because they used to be an individual contributor and they used to work beside people. And then now you want them to manage these people. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to listen.
We have the place that I work at now, they really put a good emphasis on leadership development. I really have to commend them, and I have to say that openly on here because they really do. And when I got out of the Army, when I transitioned from the Army to come into the civilian sector, I was scared because I knew how we operated in the Army was a team success focused mentality. That was it. And it was focused around team. And I always thought, in the civilian world, it was backstabbing. and, you know, people trying to take your job or people trying to run the bus over you, whatever analogy or term that you want to use. And it really is nothing. It's nothing like that. There's a lot of people who are success focused, and they really, like, I can call anybody up right now and they will stop and try to help me out with whatever it is in the different departments. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And I think that's why I'm still there. But the communication, understanding the message is very important. And I just wanted to continue to re-emphasize that point. And that's why I stopped you. I don't know if you remember the and, but I really wanted to get on that communication piece.
Oh, I do remember the and now.
Okay. You say you don't,
but
or
no,
you do?
it's true though. No, I don't actually. But no, communication. But I do have another story, which is a very good story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was in a meeting with someone at work when I was in corporate, and this young man knocked on the door and I said, "Come in." And I know him very well. We talked and got along, and he said to me that the work he was doing, so years ago, I think we call it RSP. So, but I think it's similar to something you have in the US where you put it in for your retirement.
Okay.
And normally it's busy at time of the year because back then what they used to do is they wait till the last minute to actually invest. Now people invest all the time. So it's quite busy. And his clients, their slips that's saying how much they have invested was in the mailroom to go out, but the mailroom was backed up. Okay. So I said to the mailroom manager, well, this person, I can't remember his name, well, why don't you give him those slips? Because his clients, as in the brokers, are going to be calling him asking because the clients, the broker's clients are going to be calling. So he came knocking on the door and I said, "Oh, come in." And he said, "Oh, I heard you said I should help the mailroom when we get in these things out." He goes, "Well, I'm not going to do it because I'm getting paid too much to do this. I'm going to quit." And I said, "Hey, quit." I said, "Quit. Go ahead and quit. You can go ahead and quit because I can find someone to replace you." Yeah. Well, he did not expect me to say that he should quit. So once he said that, he realized he has to quit because he realized I was also serious.
Yeah. Wow.
And so,
wow. Somebody feeling themselves.
And he said, "Oh." So he said, he goes, "You know, the funny thing is, I've always respected you, and I don't know why I did that. Because I knew you weren't going to fix it for me, but I did not expect you to say, go ahead and quit." And he goes, "When you told me that, I respected you even more."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he said, "I really don't want to go." I said, "I'm sorry." And he found a job. I said, "I wish you the best." And you'd come back and visit because he had friends there and he'd chit chat with me and everything. But, and you see, and that's the thing about having the confidence to do things so you are respected.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. Because if I had said, "Oh, okay, give it to somebody else," what would have happened?
Yeah.
Right there and then. He said, "Oh, he can do that anytime." But I said,
that's a precedent.
Go ahead and quit.
Yep. You're starting that precedent.
Exactly. You interrupt me to tell me that if you don't get your way, you're going to quit. Give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and this is what helped to build your confidence, that you're confident enough that you can tell someone when they're threatening you to say, if that's going to make you happier, go right ahead. I'll support you on it. Because I also gave him a very good reference. Because he was a good employee, but not very bright.
I'll tell you what. All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. Those are great stories. We could do this all day. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, because I'm a storyteller and I have tons. No, and then, see, the thing about it too, I love people. I genuinely love people.
Yeah.
So they don't get on my nerves. I just do and say what needs to get done. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really and genuinely love people. So when they do stupid things and I said it straight, then I can laugh about it.
I do too. I do too. We're kindred hearts here.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's get to some teaching for the listeners. Hey, what strategies would you recommend for building resilience during career transitions? You just talked about this young gentleman who had to transition from one place to another, right? So he may have already had some resiliency built up, but what strategy would you recommend?
Again, knowing who you are
I
That's
love it.
really important. That's really important. There's so many people that don't know who they are. And it's not just about the job. It's about
Yeah.
how you even deal with people in life.
Yeah.
Because why is it that there's some people that someone is always picking on you or someone is doing this? It's not about the people that's picking on you because you're the common denominator. You're the only person. This person doesn't know this person. So why are they picking on you? So it's sometimes really stop. It's really stop to think about, what am I putting out there? Right? What am I putting out there? Am I leaving this company because I cannot handle things that they have said to me, or I cannot handle work? If that's the case, because of things they've said to you, how are you going to manage at the next company? Right? So you have to be honest with yourself. And that's the main thing. You don't have to tell anybody. It's just you have to be honest with yourself to say, geez, I get upset very easily when someone speaks to me. So, geez, why am I leaving then? What do I need to do in order to overcome that? And then start asking your close friends. Because the same thing that you do at work is what you do with your friends. They say something, you get upset, and you might not talk to them for a couple of days. And that's what it is. That's what helped to build resiliency. It's you being honest with yourself, because it's not about people. Yeah. These people don't know each other. So why are they constantly picking on you? It's you are the common denominator. So, and that's one of the biggest ways to build resilience. If you're leaving it because of the work, you have to stop to think, why am I leaving it because of the work? Is it too much work? Or is it something that I cannot handle? If you can't handle it and it's too much work, where do you see yourself going? Right? You got to start that plan. Where do I want to go? What am I good at doing? Because a lot of people take jobs, but they don't know what they're good at. They don't know their strengths. They don't. So they took the job. So it's like spending some time to think about and ask for your friends, ask your family, anything. Now is even great because there's so many assessments on the internet that you can take to realize who you are. Hire a coach. There's so many things you can do now to be successful that, to be honest, there's no reason not to be.
Right.
There's absolutely no reason. There's always someone to mentor you. There's always someone to coach you. There's always a friend to tell you what you need to work on. So surround yourself with the right people, so therefore you can know exactly who you are. And then you can make your move. Because I was working with a lady where she was laid off and she got a really good package and she wanted to start a business.
Okay.
And she went through all the assessments I had for someone who wants to be an entrepreneur. And she did them all. And then we started getting the discussion. And I said to her, do you know, one thing I love about being an entrepreneur is this. I know what I need to do whenever my business taper off in order to bring more income. When you work for someone, they can let you go anytime. And then you're out there looking for another job. And she goes, oh, yeah, I kind of like that idea. And I said, what do you like about it? And she said, well, I kind of like the part where I know what to do to go out and get more work. I said, okay, when you start your business, it takes a long time to actually build up to basically what you'd like to earn. There's a lot of things you've got to do. Do you have the bandwidth to do that? He goes, I never thought of that. I said, think about it. I said, we used to see each other once a week. I said, take 2 weeks and think about it. And then come back and let me know. And she came back. She goes, oh my God. She goes, geez, how do you come up with these things? I said, I don't know. It just makes sense to me. So I'm telling you. And she said, I'm going back to work. I'm going to look for a job. She said, I'm not ready. She goes, when I'm ready to, I'll let you know. I've never heard back from her. So we have to really think, and this is why I always stress knowing who you are, really and truly knowing who you are, and why do you want to leave? Why are you leaving this job? What do you hate about it? What do you love about it? Why are you leaving? Because people just leave for sometimes silly reasons. And they end up in the worst company than they were at before. So I might thought, why? And if you're leaving to start a business, you have money for the next year. Until that business.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Until that business start making money. If you're married and you're not making money, how are you going to replace that paycheck? Have you discussed it with your husband that you're leaving the job and you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur? I said, these are discussions you need to have with your significant others, your spouse, the children, everybody. It's a family thing.
Yeah.
Before you just up and quit your job, right? And there are people who have that mindset that they think about it before they decide to quit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an emotional thing for them. They think about it and then they'll quit. And then they will have a plan, or they'll come and talk to me, and the light bulb will go on, and they'll start working on the things they're supposed to work on. Like, first thing first, speak to your spouse before you decide to quit. Look at how much money you bring in now. Look at all the things that you can achieve because you're 2 paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
And remind your husband that there won't be a paycheck for a while. And how are you going to replace that paycheck?
Yeah.
And once you start talking like this, they realize that if it's someone that's serious, you know that they'll make it.
Right.
Yeah. The ones that are not serious, you know they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
But resilience it's huge because, again, everything comes back to you, who you are. Because if you're not a person who, for simple things, you can go crazy. How are you going to just leave your Yeah. Because resiliency comes from, okay, your son or daughter fell and you have to take the child to the hospital. Do you start panicking and screaming and panting, or you can jump and clean it up and get them to the hospital? Which one is it? It's just things like that.
Yeah. Wow. It's real simple. And I'm glad that you're continuing to emphasize the message of knowing who you are. And it definitely applies in
Thank you.
everything about your life, not just your career. I've been reading some books, and they talk about mindset, and they talk about resetting, and they talk about how things make you react the way you react. And a lot of it is not necessarily who your core person is, but it is who your core person is because you allow it to be who you are.
Right.
So we won't get into all of that, but the key point is no matter who you are at this moment, you need to know who you are at this moment. It'll help you make better decisions.
It is true. It is true that, and it's funny because I don't think people really stop to think about it.
Yeah.
You really need to know who you are to the core, as you put it, to the core.
Yeah. What your motivations are. So, all
right.
So you spoke a little bit about it, but how do you help women in leadership overcome unique challenges in their journeys, in your journeys?
In my journey, I'll start with my journey. I'm a realist. I know me, and I don't have to tell everyone who I am, but they tend to figure it out because I'm an open book.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't like it, well, then I'm not going to change because I love who I am. And I'm not a mean person. I'm a respectable person. I'm a fun person. And I'm direct, very direct. And I'll tell you the truth. So if you can't, and that I will tell my client that, if you can't handle the truth, well, I'm not the favorite person for you to work with because I will tell you the truth and I will help you get to where you want to get to. So that's the thing about it. I am a nice, caring person, but I'm direct and I tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And what I find is a lot of people are not good with the truth. But for some reason, I'm okay with it. And most of my clients have been okay with it because they're not accustomed to being told the truth. So for me, for some reason, I get away with it. So that's one. Working with me, that's what it is. Now, and I tell my clients the same thing, especially people in leadership role or who a lot of women want to get to the C-suite. And I will say to them, the first thing first is that you have to show up. And they'll say to me, what do you mean I have to show up? I said, you have to show up as who you are. Do not go to the meeting late and slink in at the back. Walk into the meeting, front and center, positive and confident that you belong here. Because if you don't do that, that's the end of you. Do not speak like you're asking a question when it's a statement. Because a lot of women do that. They sort of lower their voice. And I said, don't do that. Do not speak like a little girl. It's like you are a woman with knowledge. Go in, take your seat, and if you hear someone say something and you have something to add it. But don't make it as if it's a question and you're waiting for someone to respond. Because what would happen, someone would respond and they'd get upset that someone is responding, and the person who is responding is adding to it. So they've taken their idea and adding to it. I said, yes, because you lowered your voice, which simply means you're asking a question.
Yeah.
Instead of making a statement. The statement is, it ends with period.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And I said, that's how you also get respect.
Yeah.
And another thing I'll tell them as well, too, when you go to a meeting, look at who's the head of the table. If your boss is at the head of the table, that's not a good boss. Because the CEO, a real CEO, sits amongst the people. He's already the CEO, therefore he should not be at the head of the table. So I said, that's a company you might have to think about what your next move is going to be.
Yeah.
So what you would need to do is sit beside that CEO, although he's at the head of the table, still sit beside him. And what you do is watch every move that he makes.
Yeah.
And when you're watching every move that he makes, is it in alignment with your values and your goals? If it's not, start looking for another job.
I like it.
And it works. It really does work, because they'll come back and say, oh my God, you're right. And I said, yes, a CEO, any C-suite person, do not need to be at the head of the table because everybody knows who they are.
I know.
So why are you there? You're there because you're a dictator. You are a dictator and you want to be the person talking and everyone looking at you.
Yeah.
So it's just little tips like that I'll give them. And it said, always speak up. Always. If you go to a networking event, go early. If you're shy and timid, go early when they're setting up. Help them set up. Because when you help them set up, the moment people start arriving, they're going to take you and introduce you to all the people. And you already know the organizers. So people will even start, how do you know them? He says, well, I came early to help them set up, and this is how I've met them. Don't go late and slink in at the back, because nobody's going to initiate your conversation to come and speak to you. And you will not attend another networking meeting because you figure it's not working for you. Yeah. But you're not doing the work. You cannot go late, so no one will speak to you. You have to go when everyone is mixing and mingling.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just go, says, hi, I am new here. This is my first time at this networking event. Can anyone tell me a little bit about it?
Dang.
And then they start asking you questions.
Yeah.
So those are the type of tips that I'll give them, is like, stand in your power.
Yeah.
Stand in your power. Don't make it about ego, but stand in your power. Because as women, we don't stand in our power. It's enough. A lot of women don't even understand. And that's a program I do, is understand what it means to be a woman. They don't. Yeah. They don't. And this is why I said, I love that I was raised by a man, a very good father, I should say, because he taught us about being goddesses, like years and years ago. Women were seen as goddesses, and Mother Nature came from goddesses, and the men called them Mother Nature because they had to rely, back then men knew they had to rely on them for food, and they had to rely on them for children. Yeah. So therefore, hence, if Mother Nature didn't go out there and do something, all the planting and stuff, they would not get food. So that's how it became Mother Nature. And he taught us all that. And recently I found a book, and it was like, oh my God. And I bought it. And it was everything that he taught us. And he said, women need to realize they've got a lot of power. He also said, because most women are empath, and that's the next thing he used to say, look, don't try to be a man. You cannot be a man. You're already a woman, and you've got all the trappings of a woman. Yeah. Most women are empath. Lead with that. Because he said, if you're leading like a man with the aggression, nobody's winning. And he also pointed out where, if you notice, female leaders, head of countries, there's not a lot of wars, there's not a lot of inroad fighting, and he says you don't see that at all, because of the empathy. They resolve things before they start fighting. Right. So these are the little tidbits that I got from my dad, plus what I know, that I put all together and get ladies on the right, women I should say, on the right track. Yeah. My niece is a powerhouse.
I agree, and I love the fact that you share that message with women. But there are a lot of tips that you just named that everybody can utilize.
Yeah.
As I know, I was shy when I was younger. I was super shy. I'm still shy to a point on certain things, and then you just have to. I used to always think I'll give a good example. Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but he sure acted this way. They always show Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson used to talk about how he was shy. But when it came time to perform, he would perform. And I try to keep that in my mental. A lot of times we live in our fears.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So the messaging that you put out there, own the room, own that space. It doesn't mean be arrogant, doesn't mean be cocky, but own that space and don't fear because you are supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there. That's why you're there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So own it.
Yes.
So I appreciate your stories, and your dad sounds like an amazing person. So
yes,
definitely
he
giving all
really
of those.
Was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
it's funny because at the time we didn't think of it, but now it's like
you
whoa.
don't, and that's perfect. This is hindsight, right? You look back and like, oh my God, all this makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, but is there something that we haven't discussed that you like to share with the audience? You gave a lot of tidbits.
Yeah, we didn't we? Yeah, we went through a lot. You know, the biggest one is definitely knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it would be nice that for the audience, what they can do is just start, make it a game. And invite a bunch of friends over and make it a game.
Yeah.
And each person can talk about all the different people that's there. Yeah. Just to say, oh, what do you think of who do you think, how would you describe me to someone?
Yeah.
Just as simple as that. How would you describe me?
That is interesting. I was reading another book and they talked about that. It was like, first, let's go through this inventory of who you are, figure this thing out. But then the next part is, all right, let's see what this person thinks of you. And does it align with what you think of who you are? And then you need to be able to accept that and fill it in. But go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. I have an assessment called Mirror Mirror. And Mirror Mirror is you fill it out for yourself, and then you get 3 people to actually fill it out about what they think. What they think about you. Yeah. And it's a lot of people are surprised when they get what their friends think, because the friends always think more of them than what they think about themselves. And that's the thing about, I don't know about the U.S. No, I don't think so, because U.S. people tend to be assertive and know who they are. But here in Canada, people really don't like talking themselves up. Yeah, they don't like, because they think it's their ego or, they don't. But if you don't talk yourself up, who is going to?
Oh, I always say that.
Yeah. Who is going to? Nobody.
We were just doing performance evaluations. I just did performance evaluations, and in there they have a self-assessment. Who do you think you are? And some of them filled it out amazingly. Every opportunity they wrote something, but then others left things blank. And I'm like, look, you got to talk yourself up. I said, because this goes above me. This goes up.
Right.
And any time you have an opportunity to sell yourself, to sell what you're, how the company should be happy to have you on their team, you need to take advantage of that opportunity. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's true. And you're the one why I keep telling stories. Because you always come up with something good, and then I have a story to back it.
I said we could do this all day, right?
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
At the gym, so I go to the gym every morning before I start work, because I just love working out. I lift weights, I do classes. And there's this young lady, I didn't know her at the time. Beautiful face, everything, but she was pleasingly plump. And I said, wow, she's working out. She's strong, very strong. And I thought, I wonder what happened, why, she hasn't done anything about slimming down.
Yeah.
So he worked at the bank, but she also worked part-time because she's young. She's only like 30. Then she also worked part-time at another gym, but it's the same, under the same umbrella. Yeah. And so she took a picture. One day she was there and I saw her. We weren't talking at the time. And she was taking a picture of herself. But for some reason, I was walking by and I ended up in the picture. So when she took it to the club that she worked at, she was showing it to 2 people that I knew, but she didn't know that. And she showed it to Melania, and Melania goes, "Oh my God, I know that woman. She's really, really nice. I really like her." Then she showed it to Julian at the front desk. Julian goes, "Oh my God, that's a really nice lady. I know her, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
And then so she called me over the next day and she said, "Oh, I showed a picture at this gym and people knew you." I said, "Who?" And then she showed me who. I said, "Oh yeah, Melania and Julian." And she goes, "When I first saw you, I thought you were a bitch." I said, "What?" I said, "Because you walk with so much confidence."
Ain't that something?
So I said to her, "How should I walk? Like this?" She goes, "You talk to people and people talk to you, but you just seem so confident." I said, "But I am."
Yeah. That is so important. Yes.
It's so important. It is so important. It's just little things like this. That's why it's good to ask friends and whatever and different people about, what do you think of me?
Yeah.
When you see me coming, what do you think? Or when I speak, what do you think? Have you learned anything from me? Or just simple things. When we go out, do you feel comfortable? Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you what, and I'm not going to go over this. Maybe we'll do a part 2 someday. But a lot of times, like that young lady, she saw you and made a decision, and a lot of times, it's based off of her how she feels about what she saw. You know what I'm saying? And it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing.
It is a weird thing. And it's funny you should say that. Yeah. Because it is. That's exactly what it is. It's based on how she's feeling about herself.
Yeah. But what's even more impactful about that statement is really how, and I don't want to make it a gender thing, but it's almost like a race thing for Black people. But in this particular situation, you see another woman who's you're owning yourself, you're owning the room, you're owning your space. And then someone looks like, damn, that's not how you're supposed to act. Maybe you're supposed to be a little more docile.
Yes.
Playing your strength down.
Yes. I know. I see. And this is the reason why I pivot and want to work with mostly women. Because to be honest, women are mean to women.
Yeah. Mean to men too. But anyway.
Women are mean, period. But it's just that people just consider women as a damsel in distress. But no, they are mean. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's funny because I have a really good friend and she's very critical of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll see a large woman and she'll be wearing something that a smaller woman should wear. And I would say to her, people like that I admire. And she looked at me. What? I said, look, you know what? She's like maybe 4 times my size. And I would not wear what she's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have the confidence to wear that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tear her down.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I do, I even tell the person that they look good.
Yeah.
Because it's a confidence thing. I would not wear it. But I'm not going to say, oh, look at you because you're fat. I'm not. I'm going to say to you, oh, I like that. It looks good on you. And I really do that. Because I'm looking and thinking, and I wouldn't be able to. But she is confident enough to wear it. So why am I tearing her down? So, and that's the thing we do as women, though. And that's what I want to eliminate. Is what we're supposed to do is honestly building them up and bringing them along with us. You cannot say how men is mean and men is doing this and men is doing that. And I can't get to here because, no, it has nothing to do with the man. It has to do with you. It starts and stops with you.
Man, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this is my last one. This is my last story.
Your last one. And I have no more stories.
No, you're probably going to have one after I say this. We feeding off each other. I remember we were running. So I had my team. I'm leading them, and we're running across the base on Fort Drum. We just come back from Bosnia, so we got a nice little run going. I think we did like a 5-mile run. And there's this, I'm assuming it was a housewife, but she was out there running. She was overweight. She was running pretty slow. And one of the guys in my formation said something negative about her. And so me being a leader who is empathetic and compassionate to my team had to show a different face. And that's one of the times when I absolutely went off on my team. Not in front of her, because and they didn't say anything to her. It was just a comment that they made about her.
Right.
And the overall message is, look, guys, she's out there doing her thing. Like, she understands what she wants to do, where she wants to get to, and she has to start where she's at because she's on her journey. And who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you to comment on her where she's at in her journey?
Exactly.
If you're going to do something, you get out there and motivate, compliment, encourage. Those are the things that you do.
Yeah. Stay where you go. Keep going. Keep it up. You're doing great.
No, that was the point, because that, I don't know if you seen it, that really irritated me. And I'm really even keel, but it's certain things, because I believe in that moment, they really disrespected her. And disrespect is the one thing that I have a difficult time with.
Yes, because it was disrespectful. Yeah.
Very.
Because she's already conscious, especially, your army guys are buff and look good.
Yeah.
So she's already conscious. So to do that is unnecessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what is the point?
Very unnecessary.
Like, what was the point of that? I don't like it. It didn't need to be said. So anyway, that's my thing. So let's uplift everybody. We don't know what people are on their journey. We don't know what people have been through in their lives.
Yeah,
so don't try to assume that you do and comment on where they are in that moment, in that time. It's all about leadership.
That's a good part to end.
Hey, but how can the listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Okay, there's my website. Maybe I'll send that to you. How about that?
You can send it to me. I already got it. I just wanted you to say it. I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Okay, so there is...
I'll put it in the show notes.
There's Facebook.
Uh-huh.
There's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, my website, and what am I missing? Oh, I'm about to go on TikTok as well. Yeah.
Yes,
you gonna be because on there, I was told.
You going to be on there dancing?
No. No, apparently I heard that TikTok has become better for businesses than Instagram.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm just learning that. I shouldn't say it is, but I've heard it as well. I'll be on Team Cecile right now, because I'm trying to learn how to do TikTok as well, without doing all the dances. But anyway.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't even attempt the dances.
Okay. All right. So are you on there already?
TikTok, yes, I am actually.
All right, so I'm gonna look you up.
I created an account so I could see all the dances and stuff during COVID.
Okay, so you've been on there for a while. All right, so I'm gonna need to look out for you. Maybe we'll have a dance off. I don't know, and we can share. We can share that.
So I've tried them, and I'm thinking, no, not quite ready as yet.
I tell you what I do appreciate about the TikTok dances is that they make it simple enough so everyone can really participate. You know what I'm saying?
That is true, actually. That is true.
And shed some joy, right? It's not any of these crazy dances. So
no, it's not. And that's the thing, like you said, though, it's about the joy. Because we really need to go. But during COVID, if it wasn't for Instagram and TikTok, most people wouldn't have survived.
Yeah, that connection.
So it's not a bad thing to have it at all. But once you start, you can't get off. Okay.
All right, but thank you so much, Cecile, for sharing your insights on transitioning from a follower to a leader and inspiring us with your stories of transformation. And I've learned practical strategies for building confidence, clarity, and resilience while embracing leadership roles. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast so you never miss an inspiring conversation. Let's keep up learning how we can be more. Thank you so much, Cecile.
It was a pleasure.
It definitely was a pleasure. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.